Okay, so this video is about learning poker, learning to be good at the technical part of the game as well as the mental part of the game. So, kind of compiled a list of all the resources I used throughout my journey, and the resources change as you get better. So, probably 2021 when I started playing poker is when I had some friends that play poker and we played some home games, and my buddies were better than me, so I started reading books. This is the first book I read, The Modern Poker Theory. I guess this is one of the people talk about it as like one of the grandfather books. It's good. It introduced me. I can't really remember much from it at this point, but I think I remember when I was introduced to it. It kind of sparks a light in you in wanting to get better. But that's kind of just the start. Um, Around that time, I was also watching some YouTube videos, and then I got masterclass, and I watched Daniel Negreanu's thing. So I watched it all the way through, and he's pretty good in explaining things, but it's just still pretty surface level. Doesn't matter how deep you get. Um, so that was a good another introduction. You know, you do the masterclass, you think you're smart enough for doing it, and I did a bunch of other master classes, but I realized it's all pretty surface stuff. Um, Tapped into my little I want to be so smart. Give me the masterclass side of me. So that was the first two things. And when I started playing poker, I would Google stuff. And then 888 was the Google result that popped up the most. So when you're learning equity and all, and pot odds and ranges and all that stuff, this has pretty good explanations. Um, Also around that time, I was like, oh, is it like more of a science game, math game, or is it more reading people? So I did read this book, and I found it borderline useless. If you can read people at all, you know their behaviors. You can tell when someone's lying generally, subconscious behaviors, but so much of it can be misinterpreted. So I think you have to actually have a foundation of knowing what your opponent has done before and maybe have something to compare it to if they're behaving a certain way again. Maybe if I get really high in poker skills, I'll come back to this because maybe that'll give me an edge. I don't think it's given me any edge. Um, so then let's see. Now we're probably 2022 when I started. What was this? I started reading. Uh, Started some more books. This book was on how to play your A game. I kind of skimmed over it. Wasn't really that valuable. A lot of what it is actually encompassed in this book. So I'm going to talk about this book a lot. And actually, it's two books: The Mental Game of Poker, and he's made a second one. So this guy will make you money, and this strategy is just awesome. I'll get back to that in a second. So 2022, I started a subscription service. So you probably already know poker coaching. Um, if you watch any YouTube videos, it's Jonathan Little's and a whole bunch of other guys' stuff. This is really where you can start to dig deep. I think the most valuable thing that this chart or this resource has actually is the GTO pre-flop charts. So you can pick up a scenario. Let's go there and then raise first in, and then they'll give you the pre-flop charts. They're already solved and so useful. Kind of frowned upon to pull up while you're playing it live, but you can still kind of do that. Not at tournaments, but in cash game, you can check your charts, and this is a great resource. I've learned a lot, and this gave me really strong foundation for GTO play, or at least replicating it. But it does get you to a point where you can't really go further. It kind of lays out what it is, but not why it is. And I think a lot of why you have to figure out for yourself. But there's nonstop resources in this poker coaching. There is another site called Upswing Poker. This is by, I guess, Phil Galfond and or some other pros. I found a little bit less useful as the GTO or as poker coaching. Similar content. They have their pre-flop charts. Um, okay, so that brought me into 2022. Around that time, I was playing tournaments, so then I learned to download an equity calculator and Equilab. So this is kind of something that you can play with to see what your equity is in certain scenarios, and then we'll just evaluate. And then this range has that much more equity than that range. I use that a lot in tournaments, all in shove type thing. I haven't used it a lot recently since I've been in cash games. So that's 2022. Then about a year ago, 2023, 2024 is where I think I found the keys to my game and to really leveling up. And this is as you go really deeper, you kind of get to play with exactly what the solver is and what it's doing. So I bought Piosolver, and a lot of people hate on Piosolver. A lot of people have, what is it, GTO Wizard. I like running scenarios and then kind of figuring out why the Piosolver does what it does. So this is a 2-bet pot, low jack versus button. This is the low jack's range, and then we give it flop, and then we can play with it. Then I can see, oh, they like to bet a set of tens, pretty big here. Why? Well, obviously that's for value. What are they choosing as bluffs? Maybe a king queen as bluff. Why? Because it'll get an ace to fold. You're trying to figure out what they're doing with each bet, and I like to do that. And so here there's a lot of raising. Once again, check raising with set of tens, set of nines, two pairs. You see what I'm saying here, and then you can play a lot with this. And I'll be using this all the time. And then the other best part about this is this GTO trainer, which is kind of helps me train my subconscious into making the right decisions. So I'm just going to play this hand. We'll check that one again. And then we can bet 4 here. Maybe that's right. And that was correct. Okay. And then after I play X amount of hands, I see where my errors are. Here I made an error on river. And by how I know errors is because biggest EV mistake. These are mistakes I made. And we'll get back to that. But a huge thing that made me a much better poker player is the mental game of poker. I mean, this is straight up advertising for Jared Tendler here. This book right here will reframe how you handle all the negative emotions that come with being a human while playing poker, because we know poker is a game of logic. And if you can't apply that logic correctly because of any sort of emotion, you are going to play less than optimal. And the whole thing about this book is how to basically come to terms with the fact that you're a human and you have all these emotions and that they will get in your way and that you have to resolve some underlying concept of the world before you can accept certain things that happen to you in poker, because everyone's had a bad beat and thinks that the world is over and that the gods are out to get them, but that's not true. And the second you start thinking the gods are out to get you, you're going to play bad and you're going to piss money away. And I think when I play badly, it's not my technical skills at this point are really that bad. My mental game is bad and allows for my old bad technical skills to hop in. So if there's any two things that I'm going to really fixate on is getting Piosolver and then this mental game book. So that was kind of the process of the services I used. When I think about all those services, and I think you could benefit maybe in the same path. I think I'm missing a lot of like teamwork thing because everyone talks about getting a coach. I don't know if I'm going to get a coach. I do talk a couple hands with my friends. The friends that got me into it, who I assume always thought were better than me, we would discuss hands. But once I started going down Piosolver, I have like an answer. I can play with the right answer, um, and that's great to have that there. So, any comments, questions, just let me know. And as always, deuces.